Well, the Eagles never stop making moves, do they? As today, two big pieces of news coming out. One was already expected and in the pipeline, but the other one was a sneaky decision that appeared out of nowhere. And we're going to talk about not only why the Eagles did it, but why it could potentially solve an issue that was just created in the last week or two. So we'll get into all that and more, but welcome into A to Z Philly. I'm RB. And we started off with the big bomb of the day. That is right. Adam Schefter reports that Eagles agree on a multi-year contract extension with head coach Nick Sirianni. And I love the picture. Jeff Lurie hoisting the Lombardi. Nick Sirianni smiling. Man, I love this guy. I really do. I really do. And at one point, probably like everybody else, we thought he, should go. Like he was on the hot seat and the way he was handling himself was just immature. But ever since that Cleveland Browns game when he was yelling at the fan and Lurie sat him down and told him, we need to be all business, he was just strictly business the rest of the way. And the Eagles end up winning the Super Bowl. And I'm so happy for this guy. You think about everything he's been through. But Nick Sirianni was entering the final year of his contract. This was expected that he would get an extension. And he was one of the lowest paid head coaches in the NFL. He was last on the totem pole when they hired him, just like every other Eagles head coach. But after a Super Bowl win and an offseason where the first-time head coaches like Ben Johnson landed deals north of $13 million a year, Nick Sirianni is expected to be placed closer to the top of the league. Well-deserved, man. Well-deserved. They can't say anything about Nick Sirianni. You know why? Because this guy came in and he's never missed the playoffs. This guy has won a Super Bowl. He's 54-23. We need to start talking about him as one of the best head coaches in franchise history. Ladies and gentlemen, who has a start like this? Nobody. Nobody in the Super Bowl era has these kinds of numbers like Nick Sirianni. He comes in, he turns the team around after the disaster in 2020. He starts off 2-5, right? You go from the new hotshot hire, and immediately you're on the hot seat. You hand over the play calling to Shane Steichen when you're 2-5. The team turns it around and they make the playoffs. That's the sign of a good leader. Being able to delegate, being able to identify strengths and weaknesses and address them. Then they come back the next year. They go to the Super Bowl and lose a tough game. Good battle. They go back in 23 and they completely fall on their face after a 10-1 start. They implode, the biggest choke in NFL history. And everybody quits on Nick Sirianni. I've never seen players come back after quitting on a head coach. But what do? They come back full force in 2024 and they dominate all year and they shift their identity and they win the damn Super Bowl. And this guy deserves credit like everybody else, everybody, including myself, that poo-pooed on him one time or the other. He stuck the course. It is not easy to coach in Philly, and especially when you have the type of collapse that they did in 23, to be able to push through that and come back and win a Super Bowl. I am so happy for this guy. He deserves every penny coming his way, and he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. And no, he doesn't do everything. He's more of a laid-back CEO coach from, a hands-on standpoint. But these guys trust in him. They believe in him. You hear it every time they talk, and he deserves all of it and more. So give me your thoughts on the extension down below. But another move came out today, and ladies and gentlemen, I did not see it coming. I think it's important, though, to highlight what happened in the last week or two. The Eagles lose two big-time scouting personnel pieces on their staff. Last week, the Raiders hire Senior Director of Scouting Brandon Hunt as their Vice President of Player Personnel under new GM John Spytek, a highly respected talent evaluator and strong addition in Vegas. Also, a couple weeks ago, the Raiders hire former Eagles college scouting executive Anthony Patch as their senior personnel executive. Yo, what's going on with the Raiders, man? Eagles might have to smoke them this season. They're taking all our guys. They're taking all our scouting guys. Hey, I understand it, man. When you're at the top, when you're succeeding like this, people want a bite of the apple. It happens. It is what it is. I can't blame these guys. Congratulations to them. But the Eagles had a potential issue that was arising. And what do? In Eagles fashion, the best organization in the world, right? They get ahead of the Sirianni extension when they knew it was coming up. And they address this issue before it even starts. They bring back former Eagles Vice President of Player Personnel, Joe Douglas, who was also the Jets GM for the last 5 seasons, and they bring him back in a scouting role. As Zach Berman says here, he'll be returning as a senior scout for the Eagles. He was with them from 2016 to 2019. He's a respected figure in the organization, and he was a key part of the front office that delivered the Eagles the franchise's first Super Bowl. So, boom, he's going to help tremendously. Joe Douglas was with the Birds from 2016 to 19, helped construct and architect a Super Bowl roster before becoming the Jets GM. He was at the link on December 15th before the Steelers game. He was seen pregame with GM Howie Roseman on the sideline. Here's what you need to know about Joe Douglas. 14 years as a scout for the Baltimore Ravens, helped win 2 Super Bowls. He was a director of college scouting for a year with the Bears, and he was the vice president of player personnel for 3 years with the Eagles, and then a GM for 5 years with the Jets. Now, did his Jets tenure work out that good? No. No, it didn't. But my theory is that the Jets are cursed, and they will never do anything good again in the existence of time and just ever. Like, they'll never do anything good again. The Jets will never do anything good again. But on a more serious note, look at who the Jets drafted over those 5 seasons, right? There were some misses, but there were also some pretty good hits. They draft Quinnen Williams, number 3 overall. That was his first big move. And Quinnen Williams has been a 3-time Pro Bowler, really good player. Look at that. They draft Mekhi Becton in 2020. Never really worked out there, but it did work out in Philadelphia. Obviously, the Zach Wilson pick was the downfall of the Jets in a way, and that can solely be put on Joe Douglas and his staff. But, you know, Elijah Vera Tucker, Elijah Moore, couple players that they found over the years, and then you get to 2022, and this is really where it gets interesting. He drafted Sauce Gardner, a lockdown corner, at number 4. They draft Garrett Wilson at 10, a young receiver who's one of the best in the NFL. They draft Will McDonald, who had a breakout year. And then this past year, they drafted a couple good pieces. And obviously, Douglas was fired midseason. Saleh was fired. I mean, the Jets literally fired Robert Saleh and locked him out of the facility. Joe Douglas was at the practice, I think, one day, and he had a press conference saying that he believed the team could turn things around. They'd figure it out. And then they fired him an hour later. So, like I said, the Jets really don't know what they're doing. Joe Douglas is back in his element. You know, he's back just focusing on one job. Maybe it didn't work out as a GM, but instead of focusing your efforts everywhere, he's doing what he does best. He helped build this Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl team from 2016 to 2019. I mean, again, there were some misses, but look at the players that they drafted, right? Carson Wentz, Isaac Seumalo, Halapuli Vaitai, Jalen Mills, Derek Barnett, Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas, guys like that, Dallas Goedert, Avonte Maddox, Josh Sweat. Now, again, he wasn't solely responsible for drafting all of these pieces, but he had a good hand in it. And, you know, whatever your title is, I mean, he was directly involved. Like, it's not just Howie Roseman. It's not just 1 or 2 guys. It's an entire staff, as you saw in those behind-the-scenes draft clips from this year, right? Like, it's a whole room of people. And Joe Douglas certainly had his fingerprints on being an architect for that Super Bowl team back in 2017. So did a lot of good stuff. And another thing about Joe Douglas, as we've heard a lot, is his relationships are great across the NFL. He's very well liked, good reputation. He usually tweets a lot, even about the Eagles. I've seen him in, you know, the past several months just talking about the Eagles. So he really likes this organization. He's great friends with Howie Roseman. And he does a damn good job when it comes to scouting. And while the Eagles lose 2 really important pieces in this organization as it relates to drafting all of these young studs and finding the right talent in the draft, they go out and they get another good piece to replace them right away. So just a great job by the Eagles. And I think Joe Douglas is going to do really well. I think he's going to find his spot again here in Philadelphia. It's not normal that a guy gets fired from a GM role and is immediately finding himself back in a spot with another team. But again, that's just the power of good relationships. So excited to see how this plays out. Glad the Eagles are moving on it and taking action. But give me your thoughts down below. Do you like this hire? Do you like bringing Joe Douglas back? What do you think about the Nick Sirianni extension? Give me all of your thoughts down below. And as always, appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.